Welcome, Crusader fans, to another edition of the Valpo Coaches Show. Joining me this week, volleyball head coach Carin Avery. Carin, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Halfway point of the league season, a good time to catch up with you. And first off, I know you said before the season, then after the kind of the early season tournaments, you know, every time you're on here, you're talking about the strength of the Horizon League. Oh, it's a tough league, top to bottom. And I think we've really seen that this year. Not just with our results, but some of the other results within the league. And can you just talk a little bit about the first half of league play and the challenges it's presented to you guys?
Yeah, you know, we knew it was going to be a tough league, and it like you said, it is. You know, and you have to be ready to play every game, every set, every weekend, whether you're home or away. And, you know, what we've seen is, you know, still with the second half of the season upon us, anybody could finish anywhere from 1 to 6 still, you know, including us. You know, we still could be first, but we could also be sixth, you know, or possibly seventh. So that's how tight the race is right now. So every single game is so important in league play. And, you know, we've seen the bottom teams beat the top teams and the middle teams beat the top teams, and, you know, and there's just so much parity. You just, you know, on any given day, anybody can beat anybody. And so you just have to bring your A game every day or you're going to lose.
And you talk about bringing your A game. I know one of your quotes to me that was in the story after the Youngstown State game was about finding ways to win when you're not playing your best. And I think last time out against IPFW kind of struggled a bit as well, but found a way to win. You know, obviously you can't be at your best every time out. So
right.
How do you get the team, how are they able to win when they're not at their best, when they might be a step slow on that night?
Yeah, you know, we've had some injuries in the last few weeks, and we've had to be very adaptable. And that kind of is what happened last week. We were thrown a situation, and we kind of, you know, we tried about 5-6 different lineups to see what would work best for us. And funny, just like I said with the conference, I think every day a different lineup happened to work better than the one we thought would work the next day. You know, and that's kind of volleyball. And, you know, I said on the coaches show before that, you know, hopefully our preseason and playing so many different people in preseason would pay off at some point of the season. And we found that last weekend it really did pay off. You know, we barely missed out on a good win against Cleveland State, and then beat a really tough Youngstown State team on the road, playing 6 different lineups. I don't know if a lot of people, you know, a lot of teams can do that. You know, they have 1 or 2 injuries, and I think they tend to settle, you know, and maybe not play at their best. But, you know, we've had a couple of changes and some clientele, and we've really moved forward, and, you know, everything has really, you know, like I said, at some point kind of worked for us, and that worked for us, and that has to do with the depth that we showed during preseason of playing so many different people.
And you talk about that challenge. That challenge was Morgan Longoria, your regular libero, out with injury, and it's something you haven't had to worry about. And we probably are only one of the few programs in the country who, if you look back over the last decade, we've had 3 liberos. We haven't had to worry about injuries at that position or, you know, poor performance. You know, and it's something you almost get used to it and take it for granted. And I think a lot of fans don't necessarily realize the importance of the position, how much of, you know, when the libero is doing well, you're not going to notice because the ball's on the other side of the net when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Can you talk a little bit about that challenge of, at this point in the season, you work both Allison Ketchum and Lexi Buza into that libero position, probably with very little practice there for either of them?
Yeah, you know, thankfully this year, you know, we had some depth in the libero position. I don't know last year if we would have been ready for something like that to happen. So thankfully this year, you know, Lexi did play some libero in the spring for us, which was great. Practice, she played a few times in preseason also for us. So at least we had a few games where we had made a change. And obviously everybody who's seen Allison Ketchum play knows that she's an outstanding passer and defender. And so that's kind of a natural position that she could easily fall into. Obviously then it affects your outside hitter position, you know. So again, we weren't sure what was going to work. You know, you just never know. And like I said, on Saturday, Allison playing libero really worked for us. You know, and then on Sunday, we had to move her back to the outside, and we put Lexi in, and thankfully it kind of worked for us. So, and then you saw last night, you know, we used both of them during the 4-set match, and, you know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So, It is a challenge, definitely. It does mess with your chemistry, obviously, taking people from other positions and moving around and then putting another new person in a different position. So it really changes the complexity of everything, your offense, your defense. So I'm really proud of the team, though. Playing 6 different lineups is not easy, and nobody ever hesitated about changing positions, or they were excited about the challenge because, again, we had to move several people around in order to fill that spot. So I am really, really proud of this team for hanging in there these last 2 weeks and being very adaptable.
Well, those wins against Youngstown State and IPFW get you to 19 on the year, and I know it's always one of the goals of the program, maintain that streak of 21 seasons dating back to 2002. You look, only 10 other programs in the country have done it. What does it mean for the program to be able to go into this weekend and have a chance to continue that streak?
I mean, obviously, it's an unbelievable accomplishment. Sometimes it stinks because though we don't talk about it, it's there in the background. We don't bring it up on a regular basis, but yet, everybody in this program knows, and there is a lot of pressure. I know from classes that have graduated, they're like, shoo, they didn't want to be the team not to win 20 games. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody because 20 games, that's a lot of wins. But again, it just goes to show you, that we've got amazing team, and our backups are great. Everybody's bought into our system and our program, and like I said, we're really adaptable, and we've had injuries, we've had graduation of great players, and we're still able to maintain a high level of volleyball. I think is really amazing, and again, I think it just goes to show the culture of our program is where we want it to be, and we need to keep recruiting kids that will buy into our culture. And it's going to go away one day. It's inevitable, but it's just a number. I think what's more important than the 20 wins is your lack of losses that go into that. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, you can get your chance to see the Crusaders get win number 20 or hopefully even number 21 this weekend. The team's at home at the Arc, Wright State, Friday night, 7 o'clock. Northern Kentucky comes to Valpo for the first time Saturday at 4 p.m. Both those matches, if you can't make it out, on ESPN3 as well. And Coach, thank you for being here. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
For all your volleyball news, follow the team on Twitter at VU_VB or Valpo Volleyball on Facebook, and all your athletics news, Valpo Athletics, on both Twitter and Facebook. Until next time, I'm Aaron Levitt. Go Crusaders.
Nice.